Welcome back. While parents and schools have measures in place to keep children safe at school and on the playground and at home, it's important to remember cybercriminals don't take a break during weekends and school holidays. Cybersecurity specialists echo that when it comes to child online safety, panic and fear-mongering are not helpful. This morning, we look at tips on how to not let cybersecurity criminals not ruin the holiday cheer for kids this festive season. And on Zoom, we're joined by Kelly Payne, and who is ESET's marketing manager and a cybersecurity specialist. Kelly, a very good morning to you. A warm welcome to the Sunday edition of Morning Live. Now, let's start with the risks to children in virtual spaces, that become rife, especially during the festive holidays.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having us. I think, it's a very difficult time for parents in general to see kids, if we look at the stats in the world right now, just alone in South Africa, we've got kids spending over 44 hours every day on their every week on their digital devices. We've got video footage being uploaded to YouTube every minute. We have over 1 billion users on TikTok. So there's just so much information out there for our kids all the time. And it's so difficult for parents to be aware of this information at every moment. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, with this overload of information, there are scammers sitting on the other end trying to attack our children, trying to take advantage, trying to get their account detail information. Cyberbullying is a huge factor for kids. As well as even things like blackmail and sextortion that can take place over this time. So I think it's just a really important topic for parents to be aware of, that there are these criminals sitting on the other end of our devices, sitting on the end of our kids' devices, and we need to know what to do in these situations.
Mm-hmm. And, school holidays generally then increase the use of internet for kids. How do you protect your children, as a parent?
I think that the most vital thing that you can do as a parent is have an open and honest conversation with your child first and foremost. So a lot of parents, you think first, let's go straight to an app or to some sort of technology. But before you do that, actually chat with your child, find out who are they actually engaging with? What games are they actually into? What websites are they spending time on and playing games on? Once you sort of have that idea, you'll know what sort of worries or fears that maybe you should be having. And your kids will probably be far more receptive to any digital measures that you put in place to protect them if you have an open and honest conversation. So I think that's the first most important thing. Secondly to that, let your kids know that just because you're online, it doesn't mean it's not the real world. Unfortunately, the consequences of what can happen online are far longer reaching than what actually often happens in our physical lives. And then, once you've had these sort of conversations and maybe you've put some digital screen time measures in place and discuss it with your child, then you can go forth and actually maybe look at steps like putting on extra software and security onto your digital devices to protect the back end of your devices. You can actually go and get parental control apps, which are fantastic, to be able to monitor the amount of time your kids are spending online, to be able to monitor even their location and what they're really accessing online.
Mm-hmm. Tell us more about how various research and surveys across the globe highlight that kids are spending more time in front of screens more than ever before.
That's so true. It's not just with the COVID pandemic. Of course, we saw a huge rise, not just for kids, but for parents, for consumers, everybody moving to the online space to shop, to play games, to download. We see that gaming has become a massive, massive industry, probably more popular than anything else at the moment. And kids are drawn into this. But what the problem is here is that cyber criminals know this, and they know where their audience is, and they know exactly the tips and triggers to try and get in touch with these kids. And that's what we have to be aware of and educate ourselves about, so that we can look out for these cyber criminal tactics.
Speak to us about, the social media sites that have become more popular among children that parents need to pay special attention to during this time.
So I think when it comes to social media, obviously TikTok is the biggest, most important app at the moment. I think, after the whole Twitter crisis at the moment, people have moved away from Twitter a little bit, but specifically still Instagram, still TikTok, kids uploading video content continuously. It's such a huge platform. Kids have FOMO if they're not involved, and there's always that fear of missing out. Unfortunately, when you're on these platforms, this is when you have scammers that are DMing or private messaging your children in their inboxes, or accepting and adding them as friends, and then impersonating their friends and sending them links to things that they shouldn't be clicking on. So there's a lot that's happening in these social spaces. And I think, again, here, this is where not only kids, but parents need to be aware of what sort of privacy controls and settings that you can actually have access to on these platforms. I think every social media platform is aware of the amount of scammers sitting on the back end. So they have really put a lot of time and effort into putting some really vigorous privacy controls in place. And it's really up to the individual to take the time to go through these settings and actually see, let me make my account private. Let me make sure I don't accept any strange individuals and only accept people that I actually know. Let me make sure I read messages properly and don't just click on links that come through that seem suspicious.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing, is to just always be cautious, always keep your account private if you can, and just look after your own information.
All right, Kelly Payne, thank you so much for all those tips. Thank you so much for talking to us. Kelly Payne is ESET's marketing manager and a cybersecurity specialist, and she's been giving us tips on how to not let cyber criminals ruin the holiday cheer for South African kids.